Get ready for the coolest intro ever.
Hey everybody, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about our experience in Crystal River, Florida, going to Three Sisters Springs and kayaking in the lovely Kings Bay.
Yes, so we went ahead and parked at Hunter Springs Park, and we paid $5 fee for our car and then $5 per vessel, so $5 for each kayak. And so that was our launching point to get to Three Sisters Springs. And one of the big reasons we wanted to go there, especially during the December month season, the winter season, was to see manatees.
Yeah, absolutely. So manatee season is a really important thing for the area. It's, a migration pattern for the manatees, and it's a really cool time just to be there. There is a lot of just cool things to see there in general, but with the manatees coming into Kings Bay, into Three Sisters Springs, you have an opportunity to get really close with them. And with that closeness comes some responsibilities that we as people have to take. But that's a really cool experience. And if you have the opportunity, it's definitely worth it.
So we launched from Hunter Springs Park. It was about 20 minutes from our launch site till I would say about the Southwest Kings Bay Drive Bridge. And so it'll be very noticeable if you've ever done the path before when you go underneath the bridge. And then from there to Three Sisters Springs, I'd say it's like maybe a 5-minute paddle. But the thing is in that area, you're definitely going to see manatees. So you're going to want to slow down and not paddle as far. So kind of, that's kind of where we timed it out as the 20 to 30-minute mark.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing to see a manatees coming in there. So the name Three Sister Springs comes from the three lobes of the spring itself. So you'll see some of the drone shots that we were able to get, kind of what the shape of the actual spring is. And it's really easy in these shots, you'll be able to actually see the manatees. We happened to catch probably 6 or 7 of them in there. And you can see so clear because the water is so crystal clear.
As the name implies.
Yes, the Crystal River is very crystal clear. So one thing we do want to mention in this video, we have drone shots that were taken above the U.S. Fishery and Wildlife Service area. That you have to be really careful about because the U.S. Fishery and Wildlife Service does not allow takeoff, landing, or operation of a unmanned aerial system or a drone on their properties. So anytime that we were flying, we were outside of their area for takeoff and landing. Once you're in the air, you're fine as long as you're following the FAA guidelines on proper standoff distance from people, not disturbing wildlife, etc. So we actually took off from a couple places. The first thing was the Southwest Kings Bay Drive Bridge, which goes right over. So as we were paddling, and we actually go under the bridge, so we came back later to fly from there. And then we also took off from the another bridge in the area that was a lot closer to Three Sisters Springs. So always keeping visual line of sight, staying within both the FAA's guidelines and just following proper safety precautions and not violating anything for the U.S. Fishery and Wildlife Service, which is important to us. We want to make sure that we're doing things the right way. So just because you see us flying the drone there, make sure that if you do the same, that you take the proper precautions.
Yes, being really protective of that area, because it is a beautiful area. The Three Sisters Springs, Crystal River, the Kings Bay, it's all that same area, and it's very beautiful. And there's a lot of greatness that we need to protect there, as far as using a drone or even just paddling or swimming in the area. This was about my 7th time in this particular area. I've really loved it so much. I've been there couple of times when I was younger, from like 12 all the way up until now. And so one of the things is, though, as I'm kayaking and paddling, and you'll see, we tried to get as respectfully close, but not necessarily close to the manatees, to try and get a couple of shots of them with the GoPro. You can't exactly tell what you're filming when you're kayaking. It's a lot to manage, from the paddle to watching other people go. So the shots that we got were not quite what I wanted, but I think it's still pretty cool anyways.
Yeah, definitely maintaining like a proper standoff distance from them, making sure that, you know, any noise from the GoPro or the drone itself doesn't, you know, distract them. They're really docile creatures. They're really, really sweet. Fortunately, we didn't have any like too close encounters, so they never swam up to us or anything like that. So we had to worry about, you know, brushing them off or anything like that. So. It is important to point out that manatees are protected by law. So both the Marine Protection Act of 1972, the Endangered Species Act of 1973, and as well as the Florida Manatee Sanctuary Act of 1978. It's illegal to feed, harass, harm, pursue, hunt, really mess with them in any way outside of just being in their general vicinity and doing your best to not bother them.
And you cannot touch them. That is an important thing to note, is you are not able to touch them. And while we were there, there's, I'm not sure if they're volunteers or, I'm guessing they work for the Florida Manatee Sanctuary, those sort of groups, but they're kayakers who are in yellow vests. They look like kind of a caution kind of crew sort of thing. And so those people are there to help keep the manatee safe, and also to let you know what your manatee manners are. So
yeah, they do a really good job of keeping you informed about what you can do in specific areas. They'll also just tell you if manatees are in the area so that you can kind of get closer to them and see them. But again, they'll also warn and make sure that you're not messing with them or anything like that. During the winter months, manatees come to the springs of Crystal River National Wildlife Reserve to conserve energy necessary to survive the cold winters in the Gulf waters. It's important for them to make sure that they aren't, you know, exuding too much energy until they can get back to the summer months where feeding and things like that is easier. So Crystal River generally keeps a temperature around 73, 74 degrees year round. It drops a little bit depending on, you know, ambient temperature, but it usually stays in that range, which is a pretty comfortable temperature for the manatees to kind of take their time with through the winter months. One of the main reasons that those waters stay at pretty consistent temperatures is because of the springs nearby, and that's why you'll often find the manatees in the spring. So the winter months range from about November through April is usually about when they are, with peak season for the manatees to be December through February. December through Friday, yes.
December through February. So, and I've always loved going during that season of time. It's quite fun. So one of the big things, though, is manatees were on the endangered list up until 2017. They had been removed during 2017 from the endangered list, but there's been quite a bit of devastation to their population just this past year. Over 10% of their population, which is 937 manatees, have died just in 2021 alone, which is more than double the 5-year annual average. So there's been a really big spike in manatee deaths that have happened, which I'm not a scientist, but I will say that there's a good chance that they'll go back on the endangered list, which is really sad. They are beautiful animals to see out in the wild. So I've always, from a young age, being in Florida, growing up in this area, there's always manatee like characters as far as like different educational things. And so I have always really enjoyed seeing them and doing that sort of thing. So they have several major threats, manatees do. That's including the loss of habitat and fragmentation of their habitat, entanglements in fishing gears, and then collisions with boats and other types of boating things. along with the loss of the warm water habitat. So there's always been a huge PSAs and things about that sort of thing of like pull up your motor so that you don't hurt the manatees, especially in the Crystal River areas and stuff. I think it's mostly all like no wake zones,
especially inside of Kings Bay. You see signs everywhere for no wake zones. During manatee season, I think they have signs up that during non-manatee season you can go a little faster. But the conservation efforts that the National Wildlife Reserve there is doing are definitely a key thing to remember if you're going to go there. The rules aren't too strict. Honestly, you're going to have a good time if you go and you're just respectful that there are creatures there that that's their home. So treat it with the respect that you'd want somebody to treat your home with. So it's definitely like we would highly recommend going. It's you don't get an opportunity to be that close to a creature that is so docile and just pretty easygoing, especially in the state of Florida, where we know there are things like alligators and a whole lot of other nasty creatures.
Yeah, just water,
and then there's the animals.
Water creatures, yeah.
So following our trip to Three Sister Springs and taking some pretty awesome footage on the way out, we stopped at Hunter Spring Park, which is where we launched, got some pretty cool shots of that area too. And then by that point, we realized that we were both pretty hungry. So we went ahead, flew the drone over Three Sister Springs, and then we made our way to the Waterfront Social, which was a honestly really, really good restaurant. It was right on, just outside the bay, on the water. And they had some seriously delicious food. It was the only place we ate in town, but I have to assume that it was one of the best places to eat in town just based off of how good the food was. Yeah,
it was super good. I had shrimp tacos.
I had the mahi-mahi tacos.
As per usual in my coast endeavors. Have shrimp tacos.
We certainly found ourselves eating seafood a lot more on the coast than back in Kansas. So it's been a nice change of pace. So you can just tell the difference in freshness that a couple of days makes to get into the Midwest.
So after lunch, we went ahead and decided that the Gulf of Mexico really wasn't too far away. It was 15 minutes, and we're like, heck yeah, we should go there. So we went ahead and made that 15-minute trip down. We went to Fort Island Beach, and it was a public beach. It was really clean. We were able to see a beautiful view of the waters there. We took the drone to fly over. It's called Big Grass Island. And so we flew over there a little bit, and it was just it was a nice place. And honestly, it's, go there do one day there and then do one day on the river, and it'd be a really fun weekend trip.
Yeah, the beach access at Fort Island Park was really nice. The sand was very clean. Didn't seem to have a lot of muck that had washed up. Definitely one of the cleaner beaches that I've ever seen. But Big Grass Island has a big name, but for such a big name, it was a pretty small island. And just one cautionary tale to anybody else who watches these videos that flies a drone: be careful about how far out over the ocean you're flying. Whenever you start getting a low battery warning, go ahead and probably turn around, because we had a somewhat close call to having a ocean landing, and that would have been a difficult recovery, to say the least.
Yes, glad we did not have that, so we can continue making videos for our channel. Speaking of that, if you haven't subscribed, we'd love if you subscribe right now. And if you want to go ahead and get that bell notification for when we publish a video, will be published every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So go ahead and hit that bell notification, and then like this video or comment on it. Let us know what you think of this area.
Yeah, follow us at Two Techie Travelers on Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok. Apparently, we have a TripAdvisor now. We're everywhere. So
Facebook.
just Google us. You'll find us.
Yeah, you'll find us there. All right. Thanks
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.